I've had these organised crime groups saying they're going to get me for years and years and years. Since I was 19, they've been trying to kill me, these organised crime groups. It hasn't changed. Yeah, I might have been a criminal back in the day in 2004 on the 6th of April when the biggest organised crime group in the city at that time felt that threatened from my presence. They wanted to get me shot dead. They ended up killing young Craig, who was an 18-year-old child. He was an 18-year-old kid in 2004. He was shot dead on the streets of Liverpool by an organised crime group that was coming after me. Here I am now, leading a life that's legal, leading a life that doesn't commit crime, that doesn't participate with anyone who affiliates with organised crime or any type of crime. I've stopped smoking weed because that was my only connection to criminals. When you're going to buy a weed, you're still involved with criminality. I've stopped smoking weed, and that was one of the reasons that made me do it. I have absolutely no one involved in my life who is connected to any sort of crime whatsoever. But I've still got the threat of organised crime groups trying to kill me dead. And that's the bottom line. I'm always going to have a presence. I'm always going to have the knowledge and the influence to provoke the minds of these weak, horrible heads, because I know how they are. When you've been there, you know exactly how they think. When you've done what they're doing, you know exactly how they behave and what their insecurities are. And when I'm screaming their name across social media platforms, naming and shaming them, that's the biggest insecurity they've got. It's up to the communities, the mums, the sisters, the nanas, the uncles, the dads on our streets, within our communities that don't participate in crime and have a struggle every day to survive, to start trying to change this tide and send it away. Don't respect these kids. Don't respect these rats within your community that are destroying your communities. Don't go quiet when they're moving your neighbours out because they suspect their grasses, even though your neighbours have been in that street for over 13 years. Don't allow it to happen anymore. DJ Science, king of DJs, facts, Darren. That's all it is, mate. Old Deb just came home to find out her pal has died, been depressed for a while. Rest in peace, Davey. Top lad, who many well know. Talk to each other, lads. Talk to each other. Life's too short. You need to start pulling your, if you've got friends and you see them starting to distance themselves from you and align themselves from them, you need to scream at them, what are you doing? Do not start participating in that life because you're going to destroy your own family and your own life. You need to start appreciating what's going on. Anyway, it is what it is. If you're going to go to a boxing gym, make sure it's not run by an organisation like K Global. If you're going to go to an MMA gym, make sure it's not saturated with drug dealers from your community who are influencing these kids because they've got nice cars parked outside. There is family orientated fighting gyms out there. And it hasn't got to all be about fighting. It hasn't got to be MMA. You know, you've got judo gyms out there where it's more disciplined, more professional. You've got to wear, you know, you've got to have a gi, you've got to earn belts. There's them types of gyms. You've got kids who are going to MMA gyms and they've got no prospects at all. They're just learning how to fight and then they're going on the streets using them skills in violence towards anyone and everyone. You know, not everyone that goes to an MMA gym will be able to get the stage and the presence like Darren Till did. The only reason Darren Till got to where he was because of the gym he was at. And as I'm saying, when you're speaking about Wolf Slayer and then Team Coben, and then you look into the history and how they developed and how they all started in the first place, It's just pure organised crime groups built from drug money. If you start letting your children go to gymnasiums like that, they're going to be surrounded by dirty, dying drug dealers that proclaim themselves to be MMA fighters. Even though they've never had an MMA professional bout, they proclaim to be MMA fighters. That's how deluded half of the kids are. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you are looking to put your kid into a gymnasium, take him to the karate club, take him to the judo club. Don't take him to the majority of MMA or boxing gyms. Take him to official gaffs where they're getting put in there, and their goals in them gyms is to get a white belt, purple belt, black belt. Don't put him in a shitty MMA gym that's being opened up through drug money, that's being run by ex-drug dealers who still get a couple of grand cash every month from them organised crime groups. Do you understand what I'm saying? And let me just reiterate, not all gyms, not all boxing gyms are controlled by these rats. Not all MMA gyms are controlled by these rats, but they're very hard to find. If you want your child to go and learn a form of self-defense, go and put him in a judo club where there's a possibility of him going to the Olympics if he works hard at it. Put him in a karate club where he's surrounded by working members of society who do that type of sport, that discipline. If you go to an MMA gym where you can learn karate, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, American wrestling, all this sort under the one roof, the majority of them are filled with organised crime group members trying to make themselves hard, full of steroids, full of ego, and dripping with gold and diamonds from drugs. They are exactly the influence you do not want your children around. And that is, do you understand what I'm saying? You have got proper Olympians in judo who have got gymnasiums in the Wirral and in Liverpool and the surrounding areas. You've got people that are not attached to organised crime groups. You've got to understand how organised crime groups do this, how they launder their money, how they, in the face of the law, sit there like legitimised businessmen. It's just like some big gaffs years ago. It was just like all them that they used to launder money. Boxing gyms and MMA gyms was used for exactly the same reason, laundering money for organised crime groups. And when you go into them gyms without understanding what I'm saying, you need to start understanding what I'm saying. When you go into them types of gyms I'm speaking about now, every person in there has got a messy background. They're all dealing drugs in some way or another. They're all attached to some sort. The majority of the people in the gym are never going to become professional, ever. It's only the certain ones that will be given the stage, given more attention, so they become elevated. As I say, Darren Till is a prime example, a complete bully. Paul Kelly, prime example, complete bully in their areas, all of them. They used to terrorise kids and lads in their areas, bullying them, and then they go into these gyms and they get elevated into pedestals and into situations that they shouldn't be in. But it's drugs and organised crime groups that's got them there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Crumster, powerful man with a powerful message. Keep it real, total respect. Nice one, bro. I'm speaking facts, and the reason I do it is to protect your youth. Use parents in your masses running to these MMA gyms and these boxing gyms thinking you're doing them good. You've got to understand who they're being influenced by. You've got to understand who the trainers and who the management of them clubs are associated to. You've got to understand why the community boxing club is getting shut down and wasted because it's got no fundings, but the drug dealers boxing club is flourishing because it's never going short of fundings. Do you understand what I mean? Danny boy, thanks for that super sticker, mate. Paul Lucas, you need to get into schools, Darren, to give talks. It's the stuff I'm talking about, lads. It's the stuff I'm talking about which will prevent me getting into schools. You know, when I start speaking like this, within the eyes of the law, I'm a risk to go into public settings due to these organised crime groups not giving who gets hurt in the process. They might come for me whilst I'm at an assembly or giving a speech in that sort of setting, and they will not give a if children are hurt in the process. But I do. Do you understand what I'm saying? I do. I don't want to put kids at risk. I've had the opportunity to go into schools back in the day, but I've had Osmond warnings on me. And Osmond warnings don't get pulled off yet. I've had 2 Osmond warnings issued to me since my release in 2016. If you don't know what an Osmond warning is, these days they call them threat to life warnings. But originally they came out because a fella called Mr. Osmond. Now, Mr. Osmond in the early 90s, early 2000s, was in a bit of trouble with an organised crime group. The police had this organised crime group under observations. I think this is the case. The police had these organised crime groups under observations. The police could hear these the police could hear these organised crime groups discussing how they wanted to murder Mr. Osmond. The police never informed Mr. Osmond, and then Mr. Osmond was shot dead by these organised crime groups. On the back of that murder, the Osmond family went to court and caused murder. Why didn't they warn this, that? From that day on, a law came into effect, which is called the Osmond warning. So when police are watching organised crime groups, whether they're listening through probes or listening devices, the minute they hear that this organised crime group is going to try and kill you, the police have got to come to you and inform you that your life is in danger. They don't tell you what, why, and where. This is what they do. They'll knock on your front door. Can we have a word, Mr. G? What am I wanted for? Nothing. It's more about risk. So my first Osmond warning was when I was 20 years old and I was living in Delamore Street, Walton. You might have heard about the Delhi mob. I used to live in that street. The police have came to the house. They've knocked on the front door. 3 suits from Merseyside police. Can we have a word, please? Yeah, come in. Okay. Well, we've got intelligence, Darren, that your life is in danger. We don't give about you. We're more concerned about your mum, your niece, and your nana. Do you want protection, Darren? No. Sign this piece of paper. Okay, thank you. Gone. That's what they done, and that's how they left me. Within 5 years of that, someone's tried to come and shoot me dead. I'd had a few attempts before they got to Craig and shot him dead. Do you understand? Since 2016, I've had 2 more Osmond warnings, which is what they call now as threat to kill warnings. Do you understand? That's how it works. And they are continuous. They're continuous. They don't go till you're shot dead, basically. Now, they offer you protection. But me being me, get the out of here. I don't need your protection. So every day of my life, I've got this threat to life against me. Now, before I got issued with these 2 things, the other one was cancelled out from early days because I'd gone to prison. I've got back out. I'm doing my thing. I'm delivering my message. All of a sudden, because my message is very powerful, I'm getting schools right across the board. I'm getting John Moores University wanting me to come in and speak to students. I'm up for all this. That's the path I'm going down. The police recognised what was going on and all of a sudden appeared with a threat to life warning for me. That threat to life warning upon me instantly prevented me going into any university, prevented me going into any schools in Crosby in which I'd sat down with head teachers and had a discussion about coming in and doing assemblies. It was all in the process. But as soon as I got that threat to life warning, it was a no-go. Not just because they made it a no-go, but because of me. The situations I'd been through in my past when I've had young lads sat next to me who's been shot dead, when I've had other individuals around me maimed by guns and whatever. I am not willing to put myself in a place, especially where there's children, knowing quite well I'm at risk from dirty dying dealers that don't give a. if children get hurt in the process. I was not willing to enter any public arena and stand there under the knowledge that one of these kids could be shot dead next to me, because the guilt you feel and the pain and the trauma you feel when you've had someone shot dead who sat right next to you and you can't explain it. It's too much. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's too much. It's too much to deal with. And you know what? What you've just heard there is not lies. I've never lied to you. Everything that I'm speaking about, when I'm saying that kid's a nonce, or they do this, or that's that, and that's this, it's all based on truth in my mind. I'm not sitting here inventing stories and chat. When I started speaking about the Kinnerton cartel months and months, years ago, no one was believing where they were saying. No one was having it at all. All of a sudden, Panorama make a documentary on Channel 1 and boom, everything I'd been screaming about is all of a sudden right round the world, right round YouTube. When I'm speaking about certain podcasters affiliating themselves to MTK Global, trying to cancel me out, no one's listening to me. Everyone's thinking paranoid and daft. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 everything's coming to life. Everything I've said in the last 5 years is starting to happen. It's all coming to fruition. When I'm screaming, young kids are going to start killing young kids, a few years later, we've got a young girl stabbed to death in the city of Liverpool. It is what it is. I can see what's coming and I scream about it. No one listens until it's in your face and it's happening. And I'm going to continue to see what's coming and I'm going to continue to scream about it. You've heard me saying for the last 18 months, everyone's shook up about knives. Everyone's thinking these kids are dangerous with knives. These kids are growing up at the ages of 14, 15 with knives. And I'm telling you now, like I have done for the past 2 years, them kids that are carrying knives at 13, 14, 15, by the ages of 17, 18, 19, they all want a firearm. And the difference with back in the day to now, you've got rats like the Zeists and the other organised crime groups that are quite willing to give 17-year-old kids guns. And that's why you're seeing people being shot dead left, right and centre by young men on motorbikes, because you've got adults willing to give them access to things that they should not be getting access to. And this isn't ranting. I know you get like, oh, he's ranting again, oh, he's chatting. No, I'm not chatting. This is passion. This is passion for the message of Choose a Life, Not a Knife UK. This is passion to get into the minds of the youth, to let them understand what is going on. This is a man born and bred Scouser from the city of Liverpool, screaming at other Scousers to get a set of balls and stop them from continuing. Because if you just sit back bone idle with your eyes not wanting to get involved, we're going to have more young girls stabbed to death. We're going to have more young girls shot dead in their own homes. We're going to have more young mums shot dead because the boyfriend's scared to snitch. Now, don't get it twisted when we're talking about the Ashley and Gail murder. Don't for 1 minute think that her boyfriend doesn't know exactly who, what, and where. And the little fucking rat is not opening his mouth and doing what he should be doing. Just like Baddie the fucking Paddy. Exactly the same. He knows what, where, and when. He knows exactly what's gone on. Anyway, it is what it is, people. I need to calm down. I dispel a lot of energy and vibrations when I speak like this. I'm guided from the skies, you see, people. I'm guided from them skies. Whether you think I'm going mad or not, I've got a message to deliver.